Hi folks, and welcome back to Fishing with Den. Well, I've just been out and bought myself a brand new 12-foot, two-piece Daiwa Yank and Bank pellet Waggler rod, and here it is. Having done that, I thought, well, you've got a new rod, let's do a tackle review. So first of all, I'm going to do an overview of the rod itself and the features, and then just after that, we'll sit down, we'll do a bit of fishing with it, and we'll see how it performs. Okay, well, before I actually start the product review, I should just point out that I have no connection whatsoever with any tackle manufacturer anywhere. So this is my own unbiased opinion of this rod and its performance. So first of all then, let's have a look at this nice carry case that comes with it. Looks to be very good quality, nice quality looking zip, and it's quite thick and robust. It also feels like it's padded inside, so that's going to protect the rod and the reel that I like to carry. Now, one of my main reasons for buying a two-piece rod like this was that you get these carry-alls, and it means that I can now go along with the rod all made up, and when I get to the bank, just open it out, fit the two joints together, and I'm off and ready to go fishing. So, the bag is a great idea, love it. There is a downside, however. I've just come about 100 metres from the roadside there, and what I found was that we've got this carrying handle, and when you try and carry it, as you see from this, it does that. Now, it doesn't matter if I hold it further back, even if I hold it sort of here, it's not quite balanced right, so the pointy end there tends to try and dig into the ground. Now, just to give an example, the rod I have been using up to now, my normal rod, made from a different manufacturer, this strap is in a different location. It's pretty much properly balanced, as you can see. If anything, it goes slightly to the rear, and that's good because it keeps the front end up, and that's what you want really. So a bit of an oversight on that side of things, but all in all, nice looking rod case, and I do like the idea that we've got this zip at the back here, so you've got a straight zip all the way down from the top to the bottom. Really good idea, that. So now let's open the whole thing up and have a look at the rod itself. As you can see, I've actually put a reel on it for the moment. I will be using this reel later, so I thought I'd just attach it for now. It's a 4000 size reel, and it's pretty much well suited to this size and style of rod. When I got this rod, it did come with this nice little instruction leaflet here, which tells you a little bit more about the rod, its sizes and its abilities. Now, there are actually four Yank and Bank rods in this pellet Waggler range, ranging from 10 feet, 11 feet, 12 feet, which is the version I've got, and a 13-foot rod, which is actually not a two-piece in the same way as this one and the smaller ones are. Interestingly, the internet on the website for Daiwa does say that these rods will handle lines from £3 up to something like £11 and £12 and whatever, and yet on this card here which came with it, it says £3 to £10. Now, I have actually printed that off. Let me just see if I can find it a second. Here it is. This is what I printed off last night, and according to this, the 10-foot rod takes 3 to 10 pound lines, 11-foot 3 to 11 pound lines, 12-foot, the one I've got, 3 to 12 pound lines, and the 13-foot has 3 to 13 pound lines. Now that's quite a large gap between the two, and what it indicates to me is that they seem to be trying to build a rod which is capable of handling small fish effectively, but at the same time having the backbone and the power to handle much larger fish. Now, that normally means that it's down to the action of the rod. For example, a standard float rod from some years ago would be a fairly tippy action, whereas these pellet Waggler rods tend to be a more through action rod and a lot more beefy than the standard float rod. And the reason is, of course, is that you're casting out heavy pellet wagglers, or you're catching big fish. But it's interesting to see that they're stating that the lines of 3 to 10 pound. We'll go with that, even though it says 12 pounds on here. We'll go with the 3 to 10 pounds, because normally you're looking at sort of 3 to 6 or 3 to 8 pounds for other manufacturers. So it'll be interesting today to see how they do perform, because I'm here on Den's Pond, which any of you, my regular viewers, will know is full of smallish fish and also some bigger carp up to about 8 to 10 pounds. So that should give the rod quite a good workout. It would just be nice to see that we had uniformity between what was on the website and what was actually on this little card that came with the rod. Anyway, not a big point, but there we go. So looking at the features of the rod now, obviously starting from the butt end, we've got the EVA and some cork in the lower butt section, and of course it's got this flat area here which Daiwa call the arm lock. The idea being that it stays into your arm better than a rounded one, I assume. Not sure that it makes a great deal of difference, but it does seem to be a standard feature on these rods, so I'm more than happy to keep it. Working up to the reel seat, nice sturdy looking reel seat, very positive action there, and it does lock down well, so very happy with that. No wiggle on the rod on the reel at all. The reel is down locking, so it means that this top section here of cork and EVA does just twist and lock. The rod blank itself, this section, the lower section, has a gloss finish, which is fair enough. Maybe it's for us anglers because it looks more like a bling thing, and maybe it attracts more anglers than fish, because the fish wouldn't care about it. But nice looking section. The graphics are good with the white and red, I like that. But more importantly, let's talk about the furniture. Has a nice hook keeper on here, which works for me. Moving up, these guides, now Daiwa call them LS ceramic, and I have to admit that I'm more used to the Fuji type SIC guides or rings, SIC being silicon carbide. Now I must admit I didn't know much about these rings at all, so I phoned up Daiwa, and they tell me that this is, it means light and strong, and they are stainless steel frames, but the ceramic is actually zirconia. And again, I thought zirconia was something you bought your girlfriend for a ring, but hey, it apparently is a ceramic. And again, I didn't know anything at all about that, so I did some research on the internet. And the impression I get is that the SIC rings are probably a little bit more expensive than these rings here. They're probably, I would probably call them the gold standard of rings. They're probably a little bit harder in the ceramic, and they're also probably going to dissipate any heat from the line a little bit better. Having said that, having read into these rings as well, I actually feel there's probably not that much difference, but that's only my opinion. Feel free to have a look and do some research for yourself. Basically, the upshot of these is that I think they're a really good ring, and so again I'll be happy with that. Now I do notice that they've got the double leg rings on this lower section, which is what you'd expect, but they also stand off quite well from the rod. That means that if line is peeling off the reel here, you don't get the line slap that you used to get on some of the older rods when you had the shorter rings which were only coming out to here. As I say, good looking lower section, very happy with that. Now the upper section, the top section, is in a matte finish. Well, okay, fine. So it's low glare. Again, personally, I just get the impression that the lower section is probably more bling for the angler, but hey, that's the way they built it. On these, on this section, we've got single leg rings or single leg guides, again with that LS ceramic all the way through. Spacing looks good, but we'll know more about that once we come to use it. Varnishing and whippings, excuse me, again, very, very good quality on that, but this is a Daiwa rod and they're a very good manufacturer, so you would expect that sort of thing. Now this rod retails at £89.99, and you can probably get it in the shops. It's probably something like £80. So it's not the top of the range rod, but then again, it's not a bottom of the range rod either. Personally, these days I never buy the top of the range rod because I don't feel I can justify 3 times the cost for the top of the range rod for the amount of benefit I get from whatever that provides. So I tend to go with these. They're good value for money, and it's the same through all the manufacturers' ranges, the well-known manufacturers like Drennan or Shimano and so on. So my advice would be, you probably don't need to spend £200 or £300 on a rod. If you want a decent rod, don't necessarily buy the bottom of the range unless you have to, but definitely at this stage, this midpoint in the range, I think we're looking at a good rod. Okay then folks, so the only thing left now is to get this thing set up, put some tackle on it and some bait, and let's have a go at catching some fish and see how it performs. So that's me all set up then. I've got 6-pound mainline on, which is kind of the midpoint in the recommended breaking strains of between say 3 and 10 or 3 and 12. I've got a 2.5 AA Waggler on, and it's probably about 3 feet deep. Now if I just put that in for a second, as far as balance goes, it feels nice, and in fact the point of balance seems to be right on this hook keeper here. Now I'm having to just hold that, just difficult. Right, point of balance, as you see, is right on there, but the wind's trying to take it away, but that's exactly where you'd expect it to be. So far so good. Let's give it a cast out. Ooh, yeah, that's not bad at all, is it? Okay, first bite, and only a small fish, but yeah, I mean, I know I've got the rod up in the air, but really just to show you, there is a nice sort of a action in the tip, and is a through or progressive action on it. It wasn't like trying to bring the fish in with a great big stiff poker, as you can see. Well, that probably weighs what, 10 ounces or so. And again, slightly bigger this time. Not much, but slightly. And here it is. Yep, just a small carp. Oh, that actually felt quite nice. Rod was responsive, very crisp on the strike. Oh, this one's swallowed it. Let me get this hook out and I'll come back to you. So, as I was saying, not a big fish, lovely little pristine condition little carp, but the rod, as I said, did feel quite responsive to this, so it's not just a stiff poker. It certainly seems to cope with these smaller fish quite adequately. Now what we've got to do is catch a few bigger ones. Okay, well, I've put quite a large amount of bait just down in the margins, just after I started. It's been a little while now, and I'm just gonna put this in and see if there's anything showing down there. And I'll know, because obviously there'll be lots of line bites, but it's really not serious fishing. It's just to see if I can catch something down there, and if so, how this rod responds when it's got a decent sized fish on it very close in. Whoa! Yes! Now, that's actually nice. Lovely. That fish took off, and you can see the bend in the rod, how progressive it is. Nice curve at the top, it's flattening out a little as you go around, and then flattening further out as it comes in. Lovely. Well, that was very pleasing. And again, this is where you very often lose fish, because the fish jump around and literally that creates, there you go, look. Now I obviously wouldn't do this normally in this way, but as you can see there's a good curve in that rod, and it's a good cushion too. That's very good, like that. And there we go. And they're definitely getting bigger, and that was a very nice action on that rod, especially from close in like that. You've got to laugh, haven't you? I just put the rod down to do the final piece to camera, as they call it in the trade, and the rod went round. It'll teach me to leave the thing in the water, but I was hoping I might get something bigger, and this actually is. But look at the nice curve on that rod. Isn't that lovely? Right, I'm just going to literally lift this up in the air so you can see the hoop. Might be risking it a little bit with a slightly bigger fish, but you can see how that curve is. That's beautiful. Right, let's stop playing around and get this fish in. And there we go. From literally down underneath my rod tip. Well, that's it for my first ever tackle review video then, folks. This was on the 12-foot Daiwa Yank and Bank pellet waggler rod. What was my opinion? Well, frankly, I thought it was excellent. At a recommended retail of $89.99 in September of 2019, and the fact that you can probably pick one up for about £80, excuse me, I think that represents really good value for money for what you're getting. The rod is really good quality for that price, and in fact, if I'm honest, as I said earlier in the video, I'd be more than happy to use this in preference to paying 2 or 3 times the price for the top of the range rod. This rod, well finished, really excellent balance on the thing. In terms of casting, I'm using a 2.5 AA Waggler today, and of course this thing is also capable of casting big pellet Wagglers, up to what, 8, 10, 12 grams or more I would assume would be perfectly easy to cast. In terms of the fish catching ability, I thought the strike was really crisp and responsive, and in terms of playing the fish, I've only caught fairly small fish today, and a few medium-sized ones, nothing huge, but I thought it handled all sizes really well. I'm not sure I want to catch fish much less than 6 ounces or so with it, but I'd be perfectly happy to catch fish up to 20 pounds with it. All in all then, really happy with it. That one little niggle at the start about the rod bag and the positioning of the handles, and maybe they could make the instructions a bit clearer about the lines. Whilst we're talking about lines, I'm not sure I want to go down to 3 pounds breaking strain, as they say on the information they give you with the little card that comes with it. Personally, I'm thinking 4 or 5 pounds would probably be the minimum I'd use. Today I use 6 pounds line, but I would be happy to go up to 8 pounds or possibly even heavier than that. If it can handle all of those things and still be a nice responsive rod, then you've got a really good rod which is capable of doing most of your day-to-day fishing. Obviously not everybody can afford 3 or 4 rods to do different jobs, so if you were going to choose a rod, my choice would be this 12-foot version, because I tend to fish somewhat larger waters and sometimes slightly deeper waters. If you're fishing in commercial venues like snake lakes and so on, you might want to consider the 10-foot version of it, but frankly that's great for the small lakes, but what if you then go and fish somewhere bigger? So I suppose as a compromise you might want to consider the 11-foot version of it, which may well fit the bill for the venues you fish, but that's something only you can decide. As I say, for me this 12-foot version is absolutely perfect for what I want, and I'm more than happy with it. I will put some links down below in the description box for you, so that you can have a look at some pricing and some information on the internet for it, and then hopefully you can make your own informed decision, as I say, as to whether to buy it or not. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. If you want to subscribe, you can do that too. And as always, bye for now.